About 50 years ago, an astronaut returning from the moon experienced things that he couldn't find a scientific explanation for. So, with some colleagues, he launched a new science focused on the mind and how it works in the body and across space and time. It's the field of Noetics, where the tools of modern science are used to help us understand how what we think and feel affects us and the world around us. Now, this is Dr. Ruth Miller's Noetic Moments from the studios of KXCR Community Radio in Florence, Oregon.
This is Noetic Moments, the show that explores what consciousness is, what it does, how it works, and how our lives could be much fuller if we understood it better. I am Ruth Miller, a longtime student of consciousness, cybernetics, and culture, and through this series of programs I'm introducing some of the people whose work has defined this field of research, and I'm explaining some of their ideas and experiments. I'll also explore some relevant news items and answer questions that you send to my email address, ruth@noeticmoments.org. And Noetic is spelled Noetic. Now, over the course of these programs, we've learned that although the medical world defines consciousness as what we're aware of at a moment, most of what goes on in the mind is not in our conscious awareness at all, but goes on in unconscious processes. From Jung and Freud and other early researchers, we learned that our minds can be thought of as having three aspects: our normal awareness, the conscious mind, what keeps our bodies going and includes our fears and beliefs about threats and dangers, the subconscious mind, and what connects us with our highest ideals and guides us in our actions, the superconscious mind. We learned that we can change our state of consciousness so we're aware of different aspects of the mind at different times. Then we learned that the brain modifies whatever sensory signals it receives to fit past patterns of experiences, following a default network in the brain. This means that we perceive, we see, we hear, taste, and feel what we expect to experience based on the past. We also learned that our body often responds faster than nerve impulses or chemicals can travel, and before we're aware of it in the conscious mind. Some experiments have even demonstrated that a person's mind continues to perceive and process for as much as several hours, even when the brain and heart are flatlined, and the person has been declared dead. We learned that no one yet has been able to pinpoint how ideas and thoughts are formed in brain tissue. So, based on all this, many scientists have come to accept that what we call mind is not the product of the electrochemical activity of the brain, but is in fact the activity of a field that surrounds and permeates the brain and the whole body. This field may be at least partly electromagnetic because it's possible to measure electromagnetic activity for several inches around the body in what some say is an egg shape, extending from below our knees to a few inches above our heads. Mind, then, is a field. It's a pattern of energy that exists whether the body is functioning or not, and permeates and develops with the body and the brain. When we understand that, we see that the brain is best understood as a receiver-transmitter, receiving messages from the mind and transmitting them to the body, and receiving messages from the organs and the senses and transmitting them to the body as well as the mind. We've learned that this field we call mind affects energy and matter around us in a variety of ways, starting with the experiments in quantum physics called the observer effect, where the subatomic building blocks of the universe show up as energy or matter depending on whether a mind is present to observe them. We've seen that people's bodies and their pets have been observed to change when someone they're connected with turns attention their way. And we've seen that individuals change the patterns of numbers in what should be random grids on their computer screens or printouts, and that the collective human mind changes similar readouts from random number generators on a network of computers run by the Global Consciousness Project. Now, every field is a unique pattern of vibration that's different from other fields. And some of them vibrate along similar patterns, resonating with each other. So minds affect each other across space and time. We've learned from a growing number of scientists who are seeing our individual mind as part of a larger field, equating mind with the quantum or zero-point field, out of which all matter and energy arises. And some researchers are using the equations of quantum mechanics, relativity, and computer learning algorithms to describe the role of our consciousness in the formation of matter. All these understandings help explain things like the law of attraction, how the world around us mirrors what the consciousness is focusing on. It explains how we can access information in the quantum or Akashic field through insight, intuition, and channeling, how dreams affect the body and consciousness, how music affects the brain and the body and connects us with other minds, how we can enhance or slow down healing of the body through our thoughts, emotions, and visualizations, and how one person's belief in a treatment can help a patient experience healing in the placebo effect, how remote viewing and telekinesis must work, and how we can get into a state of flow in which the mind and the brain are in sync, maximizing our effectiveness in the world, and how the two hemispheres of our brain are involved in the information we receive from the world and from our mind. You can catch up on our past shows on our website, www.noeticmoments.org, where you'll also find links to the clips, books, and authors that I mention. Now, over the past several months, I've mentioned several times that Dr. Joe Dispenza has a process for rewiring the neural pathways in the brain. He developed his process by testing various hypotheses with dozens of people at a time, and now he implements it with thousands of people at a time. I thought you might like to hear some of the things he has to say on the subject.
When you consciously shift your thoughts and emotions from negative to positive, you're essentially rewiring your brain by establishing new neural connections. Over time, these connections become more robust, making the positive mindset a default rather than an exception. Rewiring your brain is essential for changing behavior. By intentionally practicing new behaviors and thought patterns, you create a feedback loop where your brain adapts to support these changes. This is why consistent effort and practice are crucial in personal transformation. Consistency and persistence are integral aspects of rewiring your brain and manifesting your desires. These principles align with scientific principles related to neuroplasticity and habit formation. The brain's ability to rewire itself is influenced by repetition and consistency. When you consistently engage in new behaviors, thought patterns, or emotional responses, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with those changes. This makes the new way of thinking or acting more automatic over time. Habits are essentially ingrained neural patterns that result from consistent repetition. Whether it's a positive habit like regular exercise or a negative one like smoking, the brain creates these patterns based on the principle of reinforcement. Consistently engaging in a behavior reinforces the associated neural pathways, making the behavior more likely to occur in the future. Long-lasting changes in behavior, thought patterns, or emotional responses require consistent and persistent effort. The brain tends to resist change and prefers the familiarity of existing patterns. In personal growth and transformation, it's common to encounter plateaus or periods where progress seems slow or non-existent. Consistency and persistence are what enable you to break through these plateaus. By continuing to apply effort and maintain your practice, you gradually accumulate changes in your brain that can lead to significant breakthroughs. Gratitude practice is a deliberate and systematic approach to cultivating feelings of gratitude for the positive aspects of your life. It involves recognizing and appreciating the abundance and blessings you have, both big and small. This practice aligns with scientific principles related to psychology, neuroscience, and emotional well-being. So when you consciously focus on positive aspects of your life and express gratitude for them, you activate specific neural pathways associated with feelings of joy and contentment. Over time, these pathways strengthen, making gratitude a more natural and prominent emotional state. Gratitude practice is a powerful tool for emotional regulation. It can help you shift from negative emotional states, such as stress or anxiety, to more positive ones. When you express gratitude, you release neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which are associated with feelings of pleasure and well-being. Research has shown that gratitude practices can reduce stress levels. By focusing on what you're thankful for, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes relaxation and counters the stress response triggered by the sympathetic nervous system. When you regularly practice gratitude, you train your brain to look for and focus on positive aspects of your life. This can lead to a positive feedback loop where you naturally become more attuned to the good things around you. Taking inspired action is a vital component of translating your thoughts and intentions into tangible results. It involves acting in alignment with your intentions, desires, and goals in a way that feels purposeful and motivated. It's a concept that bridges the gap between your thoughts and the physical manifestation of your desires. Inspired action is a catalyst for behavior change. So, when you take action that aligns with your goals, you reinforce the neural pathways associated with those goals. This reinforces the desired behaviors and thought patterns, making them more likely to occur in the future. It is often accompanied by a sense of motivation and enthusiasm. This motivational state is associated with the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to pleasure and reward. Dopamine reinforces the behavior, making it more likely to be repeated. When you take inspired action, you send out a clear signal to the universe about your intentions, increasing the likelihood of aligning with circumstances that support your goals. When you see progress or positive results from your actions, it boosts your confidence and motivation, further propelling you toward your goals.
That was from a YouTube channel called Focus Your Mind. Now, Joe Dispenza has been doing this work for 20 years that I've been tracking him, and his material shows up on his official website, which is called drjoedispenza.com. And on that website, you can find out where his workshops are happening and when they're happening, and most of the time they're sold out a year or so ahead of time. The front page of his website says, "People changing people, common people doing the uncommon, engaging with the mystical and becoming supernatural. We embrace this work because we're curious, open-hearted, supportive, inspired, and committed. We understand by changing ourselves, we change our lives. Stepping into the unknown together, unifying as one heart and mind, we also create real, lasting change in the world." And on his website, he sells the courses that he's offering. And I will look more at the specifics of those in the next segment of this show. In the meantime, what I would like us to understand is that the way that he's come to understand, or to put this, is that the way he has come to put this together is first by looking at his own experience, which started when he was in a motorcycle accident that led him to not be able to do anything and having to learn how to make his brain tell his body what to do, and then went on from there as a practicing chiropractor to begin to study neurophysiology and then the physics behind the neurophysiology. You may have encountered him in movies like What the Bleep Do We Know? In fact, his quote about how he sets up his day is the number one quote sought after from that film, even now, almost 20 years after it was first made available. He continued his studies, completed another degree. He has a couple of doctorates now. And as I say, was practicing, exploring, experimenting with these possibilities in a lot of small workshops over about a decade before he began to make them more and more public. And now his public workshops are huge. I heard that the last one had 10,000 people. And as far as I have heard from people who attended or observed, they all experienced some of the breakthroughs that his methods provide. And his methods are a combination combination. They are a mixture of meditation, of practicing gratitude and a positive relationship with oneself and the people around one. And they also include some very specific guided processes to help the brain-body connection be transformed, and a few other things that he outlines in some of his courses. It's been fun watching his work develop because, well, he was a chiropractor who got interested in the work of Ramtha, which is how he got involved in the Bleep program, which was actually published by followers of Ramtha and included a lot of scenes with Ramtha. And he realized he needed to have more science to back up what he was experiencing. So going on to the other degrees in the neurosciences and in physics helped him to establish a credible basis for the experiences he was having and helping others to have. And he's become a very, very popular speaker, teacher, author, producer of courses, and leader of workshops all over the world. I think he's now doing 3 or 4 a year. So I figured I've been talking about him for a long time. You needed to hear more directly from him. We heard from him last year, but not at this level of detail. Well, if you just tuned in, you are listening to Noetic Moments, a radio show exploring what consciousness is, how it works, and how our lives can be greatly enhanced as we understand it more fully. I'm Ruth Miller, your host, and that sound tells me it's time to look at, well, a book, a website, answer any questions you email to ruth@noeticmoments.org, and sometimes take a look at what's going on in the news that can help us understand the role our state of consciousness plays in our experience. I said I would look at Joe's website, drjoedispenza.com, and Dispenza's Dispenza. So you can probably misspell it and still find it because he's so well known. His products, the featured products on his website, start with Unlimited The Formula online course. So this is a $225 course. And it says, after more than 10 years of independent research on personal transformation, the science behind spontaneous remissions and healings, and the most effective ways to intentionally create a new reality, Dr. Joe Dispenza designed an introductory level course filled with cutting-edge knowledge, information, and practical step-by-step guidance. The formula consists of 12 30 to 40-minute lessons, which include 5 meditations and a one-of-a-kind digital study guide. I'm reading from the website. He says, which illustrates the key concepts in each lesson and then provides the personal tools to turn the newly acquired knowledge into experience. This course is the distillation of years of Dr. Joe's extensive teachings and research. And then the website goes on to describe the course, the lessons. The first one, the journey to finding the formula. 2, the model of transformation. 3, stepping into the unknown, includes the first meditation, becoming familiar with. Lesson 4, creating a new future. Another meditation on becoming familiar with. Lesson 5, finding the present moment, with the second meditation, finding the present moment. Lesson 6, living in survival, and he touched on that in that segment we listened to a few minutes ago, with another meditation. Lesson 7, brain coherence, and here he's overlapping with the work we've seen with the Heart Math Institute, the idea of bringing the different wavelengths into coherence. And in Lesson 8, it is heart coherence. Lesson 9, living in creation. Lesson 10, connecting to the field. Now here he's saying the field that is the larger mind, the Akashic field, the quantum field. Lesson 11, drawing your future to you. and the meditation is more of the creating heart coherence work. The drawing your future, he's personalizing your particular future, the future that is your heart calling to it, rather than the expectations set up by your past. Lesson 12, mastering the formula with the meditation, tuning into a new potential. And there are a number of pieces of music in that course. He also suggests the book that I've mentioned before, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which I find wonderful. And then he has a lecture, which is related to it, which is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and it's quite good. And those two are relatively inexpensive, $17 and $13. But then he has this online progressive, he calls it the Intense Online Course, Progressive Online Course. And this is $299. It's a bundle of those two courses. So you can find these on his website, drjoedispenza.com, if you are interested in what it is that he is actually offering. You can also find some snippets of other things that are happening there, not just what is for sale. He talks about retreats, their mission, the proof that they've acquired over the years, the shared purpose, and then there are more Dr. Joe live clips and videos on the drjoedispenza.com site. So that's my review for today. And we have a couple more minutes left, so I'm going to address the news. This month is October 2023, and the world around us is being blown away, literally, by what's going on in Israel and Palestine. And it's interesting because now all of a sudden nobody cares about the Ukraine. Isn't that interesting? The world media has to focus on the most recent and surprising explosion of violence and doesn't seem to have the energy to focus on ongoing issues. Nonetheless, we have now two very violent things happening in both cases. Someone in one identified national territory has attacked people in another identified national territory. And in both cases, there are a whole lot of cultural overlaps, a whole lot of assumptions, a long history of tensions and concerns between the two identified national groups. And in both cases, they're using weapons that have been manufactured in the United States, among other places, and are using them in ways that are destroying the lives of civilians far more than destroying military complexes. So war today is a whole different thing from any war previously fought in this world. I need to say that I grew up in a household that studied war, that was fully anticipating that somewhere between 1960 and 2030, the situation in the Middle East, particularly between Israel and Palestine, would lead to a major war situation affecting everybody on the planet. Whether this is it, I don't know. We thought perhaps the war of 1967, the Yom Kippur War, was going to be it, but that settled out very quickly. This may settle out very quickly as well. And if you've been paying attention to Lynn McTaggart, Taggart, she has been encouraging people to help to create a field to bring their brains into alignment with the field of mind that is knowing harmony for all the people involved in Israel and Palestine. So be aware that there are people wanting to work and starting to work, actually leading work at that level of support, as well as, of course, the diplomats and the other folks that are going in to try to resolve the issue in whatever way they can. So this Israel-Palestine conflict, one more step in a process that's been unfolding since the British took over that region way back when in the 19th century and then converted it with the help of the United Nations and a lot of help from the United States into two countries, Palestine and Israel, without appropriately allocating homes for the Palestinians that have been ejected by the formation of Israel. So it's an ongoing thing that has been simmering for pretty close to 100 years, certainly 80 years since the formation of Israel. We need, individually and collectively, to know that violence is not possible in a world where we know the truth that all is one mind. All of us are sharing one mind, that all material form is coming through consciousness, as the quantum field experiments or the quantum mechanic experiments that are called the double slit experiments and the observer effect show us every time they are implemented. One mind, one consciousness, bringing forth the material world. That's what's happening. Anything else is, as most spiritual teachers say, illusion, maya, something that is not the reality of who we are. And we'll talk more about that at another time. We are running out of time today. I hope that you've heard something and learned something useful. And remember, you can continue the exploration on our website, www.noeticmoments.org, where there are links to archived past shows, along with the titles and other resources that we refer to on each show, and where you can send me your comments and questions, which I will do my best to get answered the next time we're on the air. For now, thanks for joining me here on Noetic Moments, recorded in the studios of KXCR Community Radio in beautiful Florence, Oregon. And have a wonderful week.
You've been listening to Dr. Ruth Miller's Noetic Moments. This program is produced in the studios of KXCR Community Radio in beautiful Florence, Oregon, supported by you, our listeners. Our theme music is Tumbling Planets, composed and performed by Jeff Lovejoy. To hear this program again or learn more about Noetic sciences, search our website, www.noeticmoments.org.